All right, what is up, everyone? We are here on another Monday night. My hair is red. The book is Light of the Jedi. Your name is name here. Wes, punch it. Here we go. What is up, everybody? Hello. Welcome into the Living Force, your one-stop shop for all things Star Wars books and comics. My name is Eric Eilerson. I'm one of your hosts. My hair is red and black and zigzagged, and I'm very happy about it, but not as happy as I am to be joined by three of the greatest dudes in the Star Wars galaxy. First, we have the doctors, Dr. Corey Helton. Hello.
What's up? How you guys doing?
Oh, you are awake. You are alive. You have done 18 quadrillion hours of website work, which we'll talk about. So I'm happy you're here.
Yep, same. I was on a 24-hour shift last night, so glad to get that behind me.
You know what? I am too. I am also. Whoa, nope. That was going to be a bad segue. Dr. Charles Henkel is here as well.
Hello there. What's up, everybody?
And you are still wearing scrub pants for everyone at home.
This is exactly what I wore to work. And now I'm going to wear it to play.
That's disgusting, Charles.
It is.
You're covered in nasty hospital germs.
What happens? Is COVID on me? Maybe. I really don't know. And that's the God honest truth.
Well, nothing is more disgusting and nasty than Wes Jenkins.
Thank you, Eric. That's a great introduction. I don't have my name on my shirt, but I do have a brand new one that you can go out and pick up today.
Look at that. Our 232 BBY Great Disaster Tee available now at utini.com/merch. Absolutely. Well, everyone, we are so happy to have you here. We're happy to see you all in the chat. And of course, everyone listening and viewing later. Hi. Hope you're having a good week. We are here to talk about Light of the Jedi in part 2 of our roundtable. But before we get to that, a couple things we want to highlight. If you are watching on YouTube, you may be amongst a lot of friends because y'all, this week, we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Woo, 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 woo. I wish I had
incredible.
Wish I had my air horn ready to go. Bow, 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 bow.
That's probably much better than your air horn.
There you go.
It's 100% better. A little peek behind the scenes. Our video team had a lot of goals this past year, and a lot of us have goals this year as to where we want the company to go as a whole. And one of our goals was to get 500 YouTube subscribers by the end of December. Less than 2 months later, that number has doubled. So in all seriousness, number one, shout out to our immaculate video team
For real.
For all the stuff they're creating, all the stuff they're pushing out there, all the edits that go on this very show to make it possible for you all to watch live later on. It is a mammoth amount of work. So we love you guys. And also to all of you who are watching and commenting and liking and sharing and all the typical YouTube stuff. It is seriously making a difference. And I'm not even going to make a prediction on where our YouTube channel goes from here because I think I'm just going to undershoot.
Up. It's going up.
Stonks. Utini YouTube is stonks, everybody.
Stonks.
Oh, my God.
Speaking of YouTube, though, I want to throw this over to Wes because, Wes, as you know, our 100th episode of The Living Force is coming up, and we're going to make a change to our format of our show that we're going to start talking about this week and next week. Why don't you tell the great people what we're going to switch up for episode 100?
Yes. So starting, we'll say episode 100. We're at episode 98 right now. So in 2 episodes, we'll be moving the live show from Twitch to YouTube. A lot of our content lives on YouTube. We had our video creation team put a lot of work into our videos. We have a lot of subscribers there. Lots of views. We figured that if you put that all in one, then it's more convenient for the viewer. You can see whenever we're live if you're searching for any of our Star Wars content or any of our reviews. So I think it's going to be very helpful for people to see who we are and what we're about.
Absolutely. So, and for those of you that watch here on Twitch, we love you. We hope you're going to follow us there. Nothing about the show format is going to change as far as like the content is going to be the same. We're just pushing out the video signal to YouTube. It's a like Wes was saying, it's a nice startup indie site. I think they got a good, powerful future. So hopefully, if you've been just listening or watching later because either you don't have Twitch, I know Twitch isn't native to a lot of streaming apps and things like that. So hopefully this will make things easier. And now, Corey, speaking of things that will be easier, I did make the joke earlier, but you have been putting just a metric ton of hours into website redesign, and tell the people what Utini might look like here in the beginning of 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have not done a major site redesign in 2 years. It was before I started residency. It was the last time we did any major work on the website, and that was when we changed. Eric, that's when we changed like the content and some of those particular pages, right?
Yeah.
That was early 2019. So I think it's time for a fresh update of the website, and it was part of our OKRs that we talked about a while back of working on making Utini more corporate, I suppose. So one of the big goals we had this year is to redesign a lot of the stuff, and I had 3 days of annual leave all back to back, which is kind of rare in medicine to get that in residency anyway. I basically decided ahead of time I was going to use that to work on the website. So I put about 35 hours into web design, just mock-ups and that sort of thing, communicating with the team back and forth, getting lots of eyes on it. And I'm super, super pleased with the mock-up. So I have one here. Wes, if you want to pull up the screen share, I have one of the pages here just to kind of give you a sneak peek. This is a peek at the upcoming collections page and what it's going to look like. And it's much more visual. It's really pretty. And pretty much the whole website is like much more, I don't know, visually attractive, I think. That'll be a big change. So it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited to unveil a lot of this stuff. It's going to take a couple weeks to really get all the pages actually built. These are all just mock-ups for now. But we'll be sure to keep you guys in the loop of the big changes coming to the website. It's going to be much easier to find things, much easier to navigate. The timeline, man, I should have showed the timeline. I think I want to save that one for later. The timeline is getting a complete redesign, and that looks absolutely sexy as hell, and I can't wait to show that.
Yeah, and one of our biggest things here at Utini has always been to make Star Wars books and comics as easy as possible for people, right? And it was when we first started out making the website and started the redesign back in 2019, like you said, Corey, we didn't have as much content just because we were a younger company. So we didn't think about making all these different areas to put stuff, and it was a little more the more content we got, the more kind of full it got a little harder to find things. So now when you go to Utini, you're going to be able to find things easier, you're going to be able to share things easier, and Star Wars books and comics are going to be so much simpler to understand than they ever have been. And just keep your eyes open, and of course we'll keep you up to date on this very show for when everything is rolling out, including one new thing that just got started in beta today for our staff and some of our patrons. Now, Corey, what was that?
Yeah, so you guys may have noticed that we took the bookshelf offline of the website recently, and we haven't been super open about this because honestly we weren't super sure of what our timeline was going to look like on building a new piece of software. And Emma on our team, one of our lead video that's right. Bow, bow, bow. One of the lead video hosts. You guys know Emma well. She has been hard at work, just kind of took it under her wing to build a new bookshelf using one of the softwares we use at Utini called Coda, which I am absolutely obsessed with. So today we launched the beta version of the bookshelf, open to just patrons and staff right now. Next week, we're going to roll out beta for the public. So if you want to contribute to the bookshelf and giving us feedback and participate in the beta and see what it looks like and all that kind of stuff, go to our website, utini.com. I think in the footer, actually, it still says bookshelf. That's probably the easiest way to get to it, is go down to the footer, hit bookshelf, and it'll take you to the page where you can sign up for the beta, and we will notify you via email of how to actually get in there and play around with it. And we need the feedback, so please, if you're interested in helping us figure out the next generation of how to track Star Wars books, I'm super pleased with how it turned out. Emma has done an incredible job, so that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's truly spectacular, and again, it is the most visually pleasing and again simple and concise way to track every Star Wars book you've read, want to read with a hard D, or the ones that you own and haven't read. Like all of us have at least 35 of those, right? Anyway, Moving on to a couple other things. Corey mentioned that our patrons get to be in that bookshelf beta. So we want to thank a new patron that technically joined last week, but it was right before the show, and we didn't get him in the show notes, and that is Jason Mitchell, who joined our Alliance High Command. And Jason also sent us a remarkably sweet message that just completely made our day and kind of encapsulated why we do what we do here. So Jason, thank you, man, for joining on Patreon. Again, we can never say how much it means to us that we get to create stuff for you guys because of that, but also your kind words about Utini and the site really just kind of made our week. So thank you. Welcome. And I hope that you and the rest of our patrons are currently enjoying our Phantom Menace film commentary. That's right. This past Friday, the four of us did get together. We watched Phantom Menace, recorded ourselves talking about it, and that's on your Patreon podcast feed right now. And guys, that was a blast. I had a really good time.
That was so much fun. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
We've never watched a film together, just the four of us. We talked a lot about that. And all of us noticed something new. That was pretty exciting. Like we all got a new perspective, which is phenomenal. We've all seen the movie probably 50 times, at least.
Right.
So that was cool.
Yeah, a lot of Anakin's toys that he had in his room on Tatooine that we pointed out that were first
a lot of background stuff.
Yeah.
But it did for that movie what these roundtables do for me for the books.
Oh yeah.
It just really broadens the perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And a lot of it too was us kind of just gawking over like, oh, this is so cool. Or, oh, this John Williams is so great, which is also fitting because y'all, today as we're recording is John Williams, I believe, 89th birthday.
That is nuts.
Happy birthday, Maestro.
Yeah.
You're a legend.
For sure.
And thanks for listening. Thanks for being a fan.
Yeah.
Oh, well, John Williams may not be a fan, but you know who is? Our patron of the week, who we do have in this outline right now, who did write in especially for this episode, and who Charles is now going to read in his luscious COVID scrub-filled voice, if you wouldn't mind, my friend.
Listen, you guys have 3 weeks in a row now. You've let me read these out, and I really appreciate it. I think it's really catching on. This week's patron of the week is Alexander, who says, "Hey everyone, my name is Alexander. I'm from France. My best friend introduced me to Star Wars when we were in high school. I had never seen the movies, and he talked me into doing an episode 1 to 6 marathon. And from this day on, Star Wars has been my favorite thing to talk about. Well, this and my cats. Anakin has been my favorite character from the very beginning, and I like any story with him, though I still can't get over the end of Revenge of the Sith. I love the tragic ending as much as I hate it, and this is probably and will always be my favorite Star Wars story. I also really like Charles Soule's The Rise of Kylo Ren, which I find echoes Anakin's story very nicely. I found Utini not long after starting to watch The Clone Wars, wandering the internet, looking for a timeline with all the canon books, and I quickly joined the server afterwards. I subscribed to the Patreon because I was very interested in the Star Wars Archives podcast with Jose and Trev, and also because Jose told us he would saw a boat in half. I missed that story. Since then, I do my best to listen. Since then, I do my best to listen to every podcast and join the live streams, even though it's in the middle of the night for me. Utini is such an amazing community, all about positivity and respect, and the staff is always very thoughtful, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. Thank you for all your work. As we are talking Light of the Jedi, my question for the hosts is, if there ever was a live-action movie or TV show, who would you cast for Avar Kriss?
Ooh,
I'm bad at these. I'm very bad at these.
I love these, but first of all, Alexander, thank you. If you've been on the Utini Discord at all, you know Alexander well. You are all over that place. Always having amazing takes, fun conversations, and thank you for being part of our Patreon family. As far as Avar Kriss goes, I'm gonna throw out my gut feeling that I always see, and that is Jodie Whittaker from Doctor Who. I see a lot. I love her as Avar Kriss. I think it might be the British thing as well. I'll totally own that. Yeah. It seems very Avar Krissy, but yeah, I'm gonna go Jodie Whittaker. What do you guys think?
I think Jodie Whittaker really is the best answer. I think she on the cover kind of looks like Jodie Whittaker, dead serious. But if we're just picking someone who I enjoy as an actress who could pull that off, I'm gonna say Brie Larson.
Also great.
Damn it. That's what I was going to choose, Charles. Yeah, Brie Larson might also be fun. I would love to see her in a Star Wars film. That was the one I was going to choose.
What about Sarah? Is it Chalk? CHALKE from Scrubs.
Yeah,
from
heck
Roseanne
yeah,
from
hell yeah.
Scrubs. It looks just
All
like
right.
her. It looks just like her on the cover. So I always see her when I look at the cover of Light of the Jedi.
I dig it. I'll throw in one final one too as a little a ringer maybe. Charlize Theron I think would also be really fun. Get some of her Furiosa action going on in there.
She always finds her way into a Star Wars fan cast for somebody.
It's gotta, because she can like shave half her head and be like Chasta Chaddock, or she can like grow it out and be like a meditative Jedi. Like whatever, she's got the range. Is what I'm saying.
Heather in the chat says Chris Hemsworth.
It has to be a Chris.
Yes.
Avar Chris. There it is. You can clip that if you like. Anyway, thank you, Alexander. And again, thank you to everyone on our Patreon. Keep an eye out. You could be our very next patron of the week. All right, an abbreviated Star Wars weekly roundup is coming your way this week. To start out, I wanted to give a quick shout out to some of our favorite creators in the comics Star Wars world. Kevin Scott and Daniel Jose Older both had High Republic comics come out this past week, as well as Charles Soule's Star Wars mainline. We got the High Republic #2 and the High Republic Adventures #1. Did you guys check this one out yet? Did you guys check out High Republic Adventures specifically?
I have not. I've been off
haven't had a chance.
I have been off the physical comic train for a while now.
Oh, it is solidly good. I am on the Comixology subscription myself. But to everyone that hasn't maybe read the Star Wars Adventures comics lately, because they are geared towards a slightly younger audience, highly recommend checking out High Republic Adventures #1 because, I mean, it's more High Republic content. Need we say more? But Daniel Jose Older did a great job writing some awesome new Jedi characters. There's a cool parallel storytelling technique that I won't spoil if you haven't read it. And the art is seriously great. Some of the younger books can sometimes suffer from artists that aren't necessarily to like the stylistic choices of older readers. But this book, the line work is great. The colors are vibrant. You got the Nile coming in, and a certain character that we're talking about later might make an appearance at some point in the comic. So I don't know how far, as far as physical issues, if they're still sold out, but digitally, you can always head to Comixology, grab Star Wars High Republic Adventures #1. And of course, that Kevin Scott, that comic continues to be phenomenal because he's real good at Star Wars. And additionally, I wanted to make a big announcement today on our weekly roundup because we had our We Art All the Republic contest this past week. It was amazing. Y'all sent in some incredible pieces of High Republic artwork, and we did feature the top 3. So Corey/Wes, whoever's pressing buttons and doing stuff, if you could put up our 3 finalists for our We Art All the Republic giveaway, we had the following.
Yes.
#1, who'd we have?
Here, let's swap it over here to the
Let's
screen
do
share.
it.
Here's the first one.
There we go. Our first one was Imri and Vern from A Test of Courage by Sky 827390079 was one of our finalists. Loved that.
Here's the next one.
Oh, Stellan Geos and Avar Chris by Coffee Darlin', which is how I want to greet everyone in the South for the rest of my life.
Coffee,
Okay, we'll allow it.
Coffee Darlin'? Great.
Excellent.
I can't wait to get more Stellan. I'm so excited for him. And of course, Light of My Life, Lord and Great Storm by Yalaki Art, something like that. But our winner was
this one.
boom, Lord and Great Storm himself. This blew me away that this was
Yes.
a fan art contributed. This is incredible.
This looks like it could be
Beautiful.
on the cover of a book, like for
Yes.
real.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
This is very, very well done. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
shading and all the shadows in it. Just
Yeah.
that alone.
Just
Yes.
incredible stuff.
I know
And-
things
and I
about
gotta-
art. Look at the lines and the colors.
right.
Yes. Artwork.
Composition and such.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Silhouette. Lighting. Lighting is a word.
Well, I will say our Twitter, the official Twitter account of Utini will be in contact soon. We'll get your shipping information because we're going to send you that prize pack, including the special edition book, the shirt, the socks, of course, the socks, and the pin for Light of the Jedi. And everyone, keep your eyes out because, oh my God, are we going to do more fan art stuff in the future? We have to. This was too
Absolutely.
much fun. So congratulations to everyone that submitted pieces. And I hope that all y'all got some good phone backgrounds too. Go to our Twitter. They're all still up there. Grab them, put them on your phone, follow these artists, and y'all keep drawing Star Wars art. We absolutely love it. All right, last piece of news for our weekly roundup we're going to go through real quick before we talk about some merch and talk more about Marchion Ro. Yeah, get ready. It's coming. Was some news out of Del Rey this week that, guys, we got to say goodbye to an old friend, to someone that's been there through the highs and the lows, someone that got us through middle school, high school, that got beat up a bit but always came fighting back. That's the mass market paperback, everybody.
Hello, darkness, my old friends.
Del Rey announced that the traditional mass market paperback is no more going forward with Star Wars canon novels. What did you guys think about this? This kind of came out of nowhere.
It is very interesting. We talked about it before the show. What's the new size? The new size is what?
The trade paperback. So like your more traditional full-size paperback book. They didn't put exact inches up, but it's going to be Del Rey, once they get more stock in of paperbacks, they're going to put up visual comparisons on their Twitter. But if you've gotten like a traditional paperback that's post-release, that's kind of what they're going to be going with lately. Because I feel like we've gotten the hardback, the trade paperback, and then the mass market is like the life cycle of a book.
Right.
You know? Like any Legends book you get now is going to be mass market, which
are the small ones. We have a picture. Why don't we just show the ding picture?
Yeah, let's show.
Yes.
So this is a picture from our own Meg Dowell with all the different sizes of Star Wars books.
So the mass market paperbacks are the two on the far right, right? Like there's the Legends mass market and then the canon mass market, right?
I believe yeah.
Isn't that correct? I think so.
Sorry, I'm taking a drink. I think so. I think the one on the far right is the mass market for sure. That's like all books eventually go there. So unfortunately,
at least in Legends have the canon books have been in the taller version. So yes.
Yeah. Although I know we do have some people. We do have some friends on the team, like Trev, I think, was getting rid of all his hardcovers to go completely mass market, and now that's going to be impossible.
Oh my God. What a nightmare.
Oh my God. That's ridiculous.
And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Jared make shelves specifically so they would hold mass market paperbacks?
I'm pretty sure he did, which is very unfortunate, which is why don't be obsessive with that type of thing because it will bite you. I'm pretty sure the new size is closer to Rebel Rising if it's not the new size. The young adult books come in paperback, which have all new covers, sick covers, by the way. That is a gorgeous cover. Seriously.
Oh, I love it.
And then the Kenobi book you're seeing there, that's a normal hardcover. So it's somewhere, I don't know the exact size. We measured them and looked at them and we had this huge discussion / argument about it in Slack. But I think the new size is either equal to or very close to the young adult paperback size, which is fine. I mean, what do you guys think?
I like it. They're sturdier. They're made for more wear and tear. Like the mass markets are great for like throwing in a backpack and taking with you. Let's be clear. But as far as like putting on the shelf, I like the respect of the full size paperback. Also, I just want to shout out Meg on our team who put that photo up for flexing that you got a Kenobi hardcover. We get it.
Word.
At the end of the day, it's Star Wars books, and who cares? There was like negative stuff on Twitter because, of course, like people are gonna argue about what the best size paperback. Who gives a crap for crying out loud?
Why do you hate Legends?
Oh my God!
What does that have to do with it?
Anyway, stop it. Just stop. Who cares?
Heads up, if you're building bookshelves, be aware, mass market paperback, you did us great. And also, if you're interested, the Star Wars Del Rey Twitter went into a little bit of how like the publishing industry as a whole is going that way. And there's always like fun publishing facts up there if you so choose. All right. That's enough news. That's enough talk. That's enough updates. You're here for one thing and one thing only, and it's my new hair. And if you were here for a second thing, it would be Light of the Jedi. So let's hit y'all with a merch ad about Jose's latest and greatest work, and then we're going to throw it to Charles and talk more about Light of the Jedi.
Oh my goodness. Maybe my favorite ad that we've ever done. That audio is insane.
Yeah.
Fun fact, that was actually Jose scatting and playing the drums there. He's multifaceted.
That is not
But
true.
y'all, after you go get your shirt from utini.com, we have some discussion to do. We have part 2 of the Light of the Jedi Roundtable, part 2 of 3, I might add, our very first 3-part roundtable. And we're going to have to pick up this week where we left off last week. And that is with none other than Marchion Ro. And
Excellent.
I was waiting for you. Bring it on.
Excited. Talk.
Oh, you're making my skin crawl, bro. I don't like it. Oh.
Have you been practicing, honestly, in the mirror?
Every morning. Absolutely.
Okay, I figured.
Yeah.
I figured.
I just say it 3 times and then see if he appears.
Well, let's hope that he doesn't appear, because we need to talk about everything that Marchion Ro did in this novel, and it gets pretty dark. It really does. Towards the end of the novel, we see that Marchion Ro's kind of been plotting everything the whole time, things that we didn't even necessarily realize he was meaning to happen. He apparently had been planning the entire time. He actually tricked Lorna D's crew, one of the Tempest runners, into kidnapping the Blythes, or the settlers from Elfrona, and then tricked the Jedi in trying to stop them. So that's a major Palpatine move. He sent Kassav and his Tempest into a trap to essentially be wiped out by the Republic Defense Coalition. He then uses Kassav's death to restructure the hierarchy of the entire Nile, placing himself now definitively at the top. He captures Loden Greatstorm. Yeah, captures Loden Greatstorm. Let that sink in. Imprisons him aboard his ship and steals his lightsaber for himself. So, y'all, my question is Marchion Ro, this feels ridiculous, is Marchion Ro an effective villain? And what did you think about the reveal that he had planned all of this?
I loved it.
Can I start with just a shout out to Stephanie Mack in the chat, because she says what I thought. It made the second read through awesome, because it's one of those things. Once you know he's plotting it all, because I told you guys I read it first and then I went back into the audiobook. When you hear the voice of the person like saying Jedi, go save them, knowing that it's Marchion the second time, it's like.
That was a sick detail.
It's just so cool. But yeah, no, to answer the question, yes, Charles, I believe he was very effective. He's terrifying. He's an incredible villain. It's it's maybe the best original villain we've gotten in books in years.
Yeah, one of the ones that actually can last for a series of books are the ones that are methodical like this, not the ones that do like little scant jobs here and there. They're the ones that can really think out these plots and weave them into some kind of like crazy plot.
He has a slow, calculated ruthlessness about him too that I think makes him like really entertaining. So I'm all in for Marchion Ro. He's a sick villain, like really good, really good.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that he did in this book that really blew me away, and I think really shows how conniving he is. It was not cutting off Kassav's hand and telling him to pick it up before he leaves.
Don't forget your hand.
That was ridiculous.
All time.
It was how, not the fact that he imprisoned Loden Greatstorm, but how he imprisoned Loden Greatstorm. And I think we have to talk about that. He has Loden in a physical cage, right? But he's surrounded by all of these other prisoners who are periodically being shocked.
Right.
And they're in a ton of pain. They're suffering terribly. And it's the fact that they're suffering that's actually keeping Loden imprisoned. Like, he feels that suffering so distinctly and so deeply through the Force that he's rendered entirely powerless. And we've never seen anything like this, have we?
I don't think so.
Not to this level.
We have seen various suppression methods of the Jedi, like the what are those creatures that Thrawn like carries around in a backpack or some crap?
The Islamiri.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would not have pronounced it like
Salamiri.
that. But yeah, the salamanders, the backpack salamanders. Yeah, exactly. I don't really know what they were. I always picture them as plants in the books, but I guess they're not. I think they're like lizards or some shit. I don't know.
Iguanas.
There it is. There it is.
Backpack iguanas. Yeah, basically that, right? But yeah, the idea that like you sort of suppress the Jedi's powers by like surrounding him with the dark side is very interesting. I mean, that's how I interpret it. What did you guys think? Is it the dark side? Is that what it is? I mean,
I think it's kind of like when we saw from the beginning in New Hope when Alderaan gets destroyed, Obi-Wan literally feels and has to sit down because it hits him so hard. When during Order 66, Yoda drops his cane. You know, like
that's true.
When you're around that kind of pain, the Force and you're tuned into the Force like that, it just hits you. And I think Soule does a masterful job throughout the book, obviously seeding in how connected all the Jedi are to the Force, and that gives them their strength. But also clearly is something that Marchion uses to such effectiveness to really cripple Loden. And honestly, one thing that made me think of that I had never thought about before, guys, is Anakin. When Anakin turns into Vader, right, in episode 3, and he kills the Jedi and slaughters the younglings, he still has to be tuned into the Force enough that he feels all that suffering like a Jedi, but he has to then block it out, or else like that. Like how horrific would it be to be going from the light to the dark side if Loden can barely move because of a couple people being shocked? Yeah, you know, like just the pain in the Force. I think is something that we don't talk about a whole lot. Even though it was seeded in those first movies, and Soule did it brilliantly through Marchion and Loden.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a drug. Like he's being drugged by this pain that's being flushed through him, so he can't think. He can't think properly. He can't think clearly. He has all this pain and these feelings going through him that makes him not be able to think about how the hell he's going to get out of the prison. You know, he's always just feeling loathsome.
And it's a genius by Marchion as well, because he's not physically hurting Loden. Like when he needs whatever he needs Loden for, which is still fascinating, because like I don't know. I think that's the fun cliffhanger, right? He'll still keep him in physically okay shape. He's not killing him, but he is neutering his abilities. And I'm like, oh God, Marchion has such a fundamental understanding of the Jedi to be able to pull that off. Ugh. It chills the spine.
I'm gonna use that in my everyday speech. You're neutering my abilities in your
use that in an email. Put that in an email. But the same thought. Put that in an email. Oh my God. Oh man. Yeah, you know, I think I had to. We have to talk about the method of the torture too. Is absolutely like horrifying, right? Like, and I love that the book, like in his little monologue, just totally blew past who these people even are in these cages. It's like, oh yeah, we just picked them off somewhere out in the Outer Rim, whatever. Who cares what they are? The point is they serve a purpose, and it's like, dude, that is dark as hell. Like this whole area of this ship is designed for this very purpose. Like, whoa, come on. Like,
you need living bodies to perform this one thing,
right? And like Jedi. During the monologue that he was explaining like the plan and stuff, it was like talking about like a scream would interrupt him, and I was like, dude, this is very scary. Like, not good.
It's so sad. I mean, I am a sucker for a villain that has such a singular focus. Like Marchion's ship, his mission, his rise through the Nile, his dealing with Murray Santaka are all about taking down the Jedi. And you find that out at the end, and you're like his ability to take every part of his evil life and put them all into a singular focus like that is just really freaking. It's just cool. It's just cool.
Yeah. I agree. And I think it's really interesting that Loden is imprisoned by these random people, just like you're saying, Corey. They're just, to use Mace Windu's favorite word, they're just citizens. They're just citizens. But it's the Jedi's job, especially during this time period, to take on the suffering of anyone who has it, right? Like it's their job to go and try to fix that. But it's really cool to see it not just be the suffering of a situation. Like he is physically feeling the suffering. He's literally taking on their suffering. I think that's really incredible. And you also said something cool. You were talking about like why is Marchion doing this? What is his history that he has such a vendetta against the Jedi? And there are a couple of quotes that I really wanted to bring up because this is still a mystery. We don't have these answers, and we might not for some time, but there's some really interesting little points that were made in the last few pages. On page 350, Marchion Ro says, "I never told you much about my family, and I doubt I ever will, but I came from something I wanted to escape. This ship was part of it, actually, until it all went bad. My father and I both got out. We worked hard and we had a plan for the paths, for the Nile, for all sorts of things. It was always going to be like this since the day I was born. I thought I escaped. I didn't, though. Not really." So that's incredible. And then one more quote from page 361. He says, "None of them had ever seen his face before. It didn't matter that they did now. None of them knew who he was. He wasn't Marchion Ro either. His name was, it didn't matter. Where he came from was gone, other than the lessons it had taught him and few tools he had stolen from it when he left." So there's a huge story to unpack here, but what do y'all think about these little first tantalizing details? And do you have any thoughts, any projections?
Yes.
Who is Marchion Ro?
Yeah, that's the word, right?
I know,
Tantalizing.
right? Tantalizing. I really love that, like, this villain is being established in a way that is not being answered immediately, right? Like, it's very clear, like, he's got a big role in, like, the big picture, and I assume we're going to get his origin story in later books, which just really puts value. What?
Ross says he's a Palpatine.
Oh, chill.
I saw that and I tried to cover my mouth so I didn't blurt it.
Oh my God, Ross, get the hell out of here. Oh my God, he's a Palpatine. Somehow Palpatine is early. Oh my God. That's hilarious. I love that we're like setting him up to get his origin story in a later story. Like it really puts into perspective how large of a villain he is. He's like Thanos, right? It took us movies upon movies to find out who Thanos was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So
right.
Like, I love that. I love build up, and I think that is that sort of build up and big picture stuff is kind of missing from canon a little bit. Legends was really good at these 9-book series that took 9 books to really find out what the villain was about, and that was awesome. That's what hooked me into Star Wars, is reading these. It makes the universe feel enormous when like plot points take forever to get around to. So I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's the great point, Corey, that it makes it feel bigger, because I think the fact that Marchion wasn't like that, we didn't end this first book by being like, and his name was actually blah blah blah, who is a blah 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 from the, like, it didn't get all spelled out. Like, no, we can take our time.
Yeah.
And I also love the fact that he's like, his father's gone, his people are gone, his planet's probably gone. So it's not like everything about Marchion is forward. Everything about his mission and his life lies in the future of his actions. Like, I think he's avenging. Who was in the chat? Someone asked if we think it's a vendetta. I think there might be something of a vendetta of like, maybe he comes from either Sith or someone that the Jedi, either abandoned or something like that. I think that's totally possible. But I don't think we're going to see Marchion like reuniting with his people or going after his blood right. I love the fact that he's all about the future is the destruction of the Jedi, and I will continue to make it happen because I have manifested all this so far. And if he's like a gray, just cool. If he's a brand new species, awesome. Because frankly, I think Charles Soule has written such a great character that I don't need to lean on him being a certain species in order to make him cool. You know what I mean? I feel like certain species in Star Wars are by default cool when they show up and we get excited and it does a little legwork. He could be a brand new something or a freaking human for all I care, because he's interesting as a character first.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And we read, 3/4 of the book until we figure out this quote was put in there. None of them knew who he was. He wasn't Marchion Ro either.
Yeah.
And so we thought we kind of knew this guy. We're like, this villain is awesome. He's doing this. He's the eye. He's now the leader. It's like, now we have a good idea. And then he says, his name was, it doesn't matter. So it's a completely different person now. Like,
Oh.
it just blows my mind. Kind of mirroring what Cheryl said. WTF? What?
And what a flex by Soule too. 'Cause I think that's one of those lines you write as an author and you go,
Yeah, exactly. We thought we knew he.
yeah.
Can I just say how much willpower it took to not read this quote? Say he wasn't Marchion Ro either. His name was John Cena.
John Cena. Ba-ba-da-ba.
No, I think the two most interesting little parts here are one, he says where he came from was gone, other than the lessons that it taught him, implying maybe he's from a civilization or a culture or a planet that has been destroyed. And there's another quote that I didn't read that's from page 367 that speaks towards Ro's motivation. And it says his family had trusted the Jedi once and it had cost them everything. So there's some old conflict that we don't yet know about. And obviously all of that's going to get fleshed out. But
I love it.
he has a very big reason to have hatred towards the Jedi, it would seem, and to be taking it out on Loden Greatstorm. So hopefully Loden can hold out between now and when we see him next.
Well, and because also correct me if I'm wrong, this may be coming up later, but Loden kept saying like, I know you and I know your voice. And I got the feeling that it wasn't only because of like the fake out, right? Because he did do you got to save them. Like Marchion does that little switch. But did you guys get the feeling that Loden like is starting to remember maybe what this guy's family might be? Like maybe Loden was a part of the whatever it was that kind of ruined his parents?
That would be interesting. I didn't really get that. I didn't really get that feeling myself. That I thought it was just the reference to being on the plains or whatever at that one planet.
Totally. Might be. It's like kind of hit me in a way of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part at all.
All right.
Guys,
Well,
Wes did read the book, he
To be
says.
completely honest with you.
What
I
book are we
think
talking
there's
about?
Yeah, it was a Loden Greatstorm part, so I did start to tattoo it on my body. I think that's legally what I have to do now whenever he shows up.
Well, there are a lot of questions still to be answered, and we have a lot of questions to keep answering ourselves. We're going to move into the overarching questions, y'all, and we have plenty of them.
All right.
I
Real quick
want to
before we
kick
do that,
this
though,
off.
I do
Yeah.
want to say, Charles, you did
Oh
a
my
very good job with the characters. And I thought your questions were intense and proper. And I'm glad you didn't reach too far into my own lineage to spoil anything. I'm going to digress further on in the story. Thank you.
No,
My name
thank
is
you.
Marchion Ro.
Very uncomfortable. Very,
That's it.
Yes.
very uncomfortable.
Thank you so much for
That's
that.
You're right. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Y'all, what kind of reception have you seen within the fandom for this novel? That's the first thing I want to address because it was unique, I think, and it was important.
It's been pretty positive, I think, for the most part. I think everybody's
Stonks.
very anxious to have something new, right? So I don't know. It's been very good. I've seen mostly very positive stuff. Like it seems like the vast majority for once is pretty much all positive. Like every time I've seen anything negative, like on Reddit or Facebook or something like that, it's like there's like a bunch of people jumping to its defense. So like, I think it's been well received. What about you guys?
Yeah, Baseline has been good. I think even like people are like, oh, it wasn't my favorite book, but I really liked it. It seems to be like the minimum I've seen, which is also fine. I mean, like obviously we all, as you heard in the first episode, scored this very high. We were all very high on this book. If this wasn't your favorite Star Wars book, that's totally cool.
Right.
We haven't said that this episode yet, but generally I've seen very good to oh my god, like euphoric.
Right.
And I think that it has been a while since I have seen that volume of people at this height, and it's been continuing. Like it just celebrated its 4th week in a row on the New York Times bestseller list, which is pretty amazing. I feel like people have been talking about it continuously because we get book hype sometimes. Like Chaos Rising came out and we're like, this is great, and then it falls off and we go to the next thing. I feel like this has stayed around, and that might be on the initiative, but also the quality of this book seems to be pretty dang high. And like you were saying, Corey, a lot of the negatives are from people that were angry beforehand because it wasn't High Republic and Kathleen Kennedy, which is muted all anyway.
That's right.
Yeah.
And kind of what Ross is saying is like people are just happy to have a fresh start from the Skywalker saga, something completely new, something where anything and everything can happen, and they're just excited to see that. And I haven't seen any bad remarks, or I haven't seen any criticism, a horrible criticism at all on Twitter that when I scroll through. So I don't dive deep into it. So I think that, it does say something.
It's just exciting. There's just such it's joy and excitement, which is, I think, what Charles Soule tried to put into it. Every interview, he's like, this is a joyous time where the Jedi are at their peak. And I think this is a joyous time in Star Wars publishing where Star Wars books are at their peak.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely feels like a monumental shift, probably on the same level as moving from the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy. I mean, that was huge. And we don't talk about that too often because, we didn't necessarily experience the OT for years and years and years before we got the prequels, but it really is that kind of a shift. So we have to appreciate that, I think.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that was unique about this project is the first few chapters of this book were spent introducing relatively well fleshed out characters that were then unceremoniously killed, like all of them. What purpose do you think those chapters
shouldn't be
serve
laughing?
for the
Sorry.
reader? No, I mean, they're all dead. They're like super dead.
That's all in the delivery.
What purpose did these chapters serve then for the reader? If we're going to be introduced to these characters and then they're going to be killed and we never hear from them again, what was the purpose?
I don't know. Maybe to show that they ain't playing around. I don't know.
Yeah, essentially yes, right? If you kill off a Jedi, if you kill off very important people, then it says that this is a really big deal. It's almost like the first season of Game of Thrones, and everybody's pissed off about that.
Right.
So it makes them a big deal.
Yeah, I'll get a little hippie about it. Whereas I think those first chapters kind of set the tone that the Jedi set in the universe, because the Jedi in the High Republic, based on this book, value all life equally, right? Like Loden is like, I will save this random citizen on Elfrona just as quickly as I'll save my own Padawan, or as I'll it doesn't matter, right? Who you are worthy of respect, and you are a light in the Force, period. And I think that's the way Charles Soule treated his characters. Like Lena Haddock deserved as much backstory and as much respect in her one chapter as Bel Zettifar deserved in his entire book, and I think that is something that we don't think about a lot when it comes to writing, because obviously the main characters are going to get the flesh out and they're going to get the extra stuff, and that's great. But seeing now how effective it is when every character is given that respect, every character is valued just as if they were in the light side of the Force in this book, really kind of made it all that more effective.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right. I like that. I like that explanation. It's almost like we are all the Republic on like a real world level, right? We have to respect all these characters because we are all the Republic. Now, my other question, and this feels like a little bit of a loaded question, but this was one of the few complaints that I saw about this book, and so I think it's important that we talk about it. But the actual logistics of both the Great Disaster and then subsequently all of the emergencies, did all of that make sense to you? Like, essentially, just to clarify, a ship hits another ship in a hyperspace lane, and then pieces of that ship fly out, along this hyperspace lane into random parts of the galaxy, traveling at light speed to collide with other things. Like, did all of that make sense to you, and how people interacted with them? Yeah, go ahead.
Just a clarification before we answer. Was that before the space alien wizard took his lightsaber and put it in a shoulder-mounted gun on a horse made of magnetic hooves?
I think so.
Yes,
Eric.
this was before.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. No, it didn't bother. What do you mean?
Yeah.
The logistics of bother me about the what?
That's what I was gonna say too. It's like I gave this book a perfect
with respect.
Yeah, I will. I gave this book a perfect 10, and I would never take away points for vibe. What's the word?
Originality?
realism, perhaps.
Plausibility.
Yeah,
Plausibility,
realism.
yeah. Plausibility, realism. I'm never going to take away points from that because if we've talked about this 1,000 times, if you start going down the plausibility rabbit hole in Star Wars, it's a losing battle because none of it is plausible at all.
Space is silent, so all those battle sounds are wrong.
Yes, I will answer. I will answer this, Charles, in that I did find it a little confusing. Not necessarily that it bothered me, but a little confusing. For example, like they're moving at near light speed, but also it's not close enough to light speed that you can't travel at that speed in real space. Like I was a little confused by that. I think like the who is the the captain and his wife or whatever that were involved in like using the magnetic arm thing to like capture that one ship and stuff was like
Joss and Pika.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I found that a little odd because like I don't know. Like it seems like there was just a lot of contradiction, I think, around it, about they were able to predict where things were going to come out, but still it was moving so fast that you couldn't really deal with it. I don't know. I found it a little confusing, but maybe that's how it was supposed to be. Is hyperspace in Star Wars is confusing.
It's like the turtles in Finding Nemo. That when he fell out of it, and, he's like, oh no, he slows down a little bit. Yeah, it's fine. Star Wars is Finding Nemo. It's all Disney, is what I'm saying. It's all a corporation. No, but I hear you on that, and I'm looking in the chat here. There's a couple people saying, yeah, like it totally. Some of it got a little confusing. The light speed thing, like you said, Corey, is something some people are bringing up. But Ross, of course, brings up one of our original hashtags: manage expectations.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And
there it is.
I'm totally fine with them. Just from a personal note, I'm totally fine with them using hyperspace to do what they want in Star Wars because hyperspace is ill-defined in Star Wars. It's not like Star Trek where there is rules for how it works, right? It's much more ill-defined in Star Wars. So I don't care if you want to use hyperspace to blow up planets or blow up Star Destroyers, dude. I don't give a crap. It's awesome and it looks cool on screen and sounds cool and whatever, man. Let's do it. I'm here for the ride. So
okay. James says, "What's less realistic in Star Wars, Lightspeed or a man named Kevin?"
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the speed of the emergences is like kind of the biggest thing. Like how are you thinking about what to do for like 20 pages if this thing was moving at light speed towards a planet? You know what I mean?
It was not slow it down by capturing it with a magnetic arm. That I can say that.
Right.
I figured they would try to smash something into it or something. I don't know.
Well, and it's kind of like that whole thing in Star Wars is like if you're reading a Star Wars book and you are like for 20 pages thinking, how fast is it actually going towards that sun, instead of being like all the Jedi in a system are focusing together through the Force towards this one objective and listening to each other. Like,
you're missing the point.
Then honestly, this book honestly isn't for you, and that's fine. Like if that is how your brain works, then
how do you read or watch any Star Wars?
Yeah.
If you get hooked on that kind of thing.
It might not be the thing for you, and that's okay.
Yes, angrily. Oh, this sucks. I'm gonna keep watching.
Didn't bug me, Charles. Did not bug me.
Good. All right, good. I think it's important we address, some of the things that people have to say that did bother them.
I get it. I do get that. Some people are irritated by light speed a little bit, but whatever. It didn't bother me.
And if you're like a physics, I don't know, scientist, if you are Sheldon from like the Big Bang Theory, I don't know. I get it. I get it if that bugs you, because like medical stuff happens in these books and I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. But
all right, huge tangent. When I was in college, I was in physics. I was taking physics when Gravity came out, and my physics teacher.
Hold on,
you're older than I thought.
Hold on, when Gravity came out,
the concept.
No, yeah.
Isaac Newton, one of your classmates.
That's actually how I get everything done, guy. I'm actually a god, and I don't sleep. Yes. No, the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock came out,
Okay.
My physics teacher was like an astrophysicist, right? So he was all into space and all this sort of stuff. And I remember I asked him what he thought of Gravity because I ran into him at the movie theater, and he was like, "Oh, it's the most implausible physics thing I've ever seen in my life. It's absolutely ridiculous. None of the things are the same level." Like he went on this huge rant. It was really funny. And I'll never
just
forget
throwing
that.
up in a paper bag as he comes out of the movie theater. Like, are you okay? Wow, did you just watch that hokey crap?
For real though, I always think of that guy every time that somebody asks me about plausibility of space stuff, because I don't understand any of it. It's like the number of people on the planet that do are probably very few. So
Yeah.
I'm going to use that explanation for the rest of my life. And I'm talking about Sandra Bullock gravity, not Isaac Newton gravity.
oh my god, movie sucked, by the way. Don't ask me about it.
Okay.
Noted.
Dang.
Not every character in this book was a Jedi or Nihil. And that's really all the people that we've talked about. But Corey, you just brought up Joss and Pika Adrian. And we did have a lot of quote unquote normal Republic citizens like them, like Kevin Tar, like Captain Bright and the Aurora 9 crew. And each of those characters did his or her own part in fighting against the Great Disaster and the emergencies. Why do you think it was important to include them so predominantly in this story? Why not just focus on the Jedi if this is called Light of the Jedi?
We are all the Republic, right? I mean, I think that's the easy answer, is that this book is so intensely about the entire universe coming together to solve issues. And in order to do that, you need the whole universe. Cheryl says in the chat, they refer to the Jedi as space wizards, and I loved it. I did as well. Yeah. And I think that's fun sometimes for us to remember there are people in this universe that don't see Jedi all the time, and that can look on them with wonder and things. And I think that sense of wonder and amazement and sometimes confusion and fear, like, can they do that? Can, like, that, some of the conversations between Joss and the people of like, hey, you can move things without touching it, right? Like, awesome. Like, that kind of human nature was really cool. And to see that the universe was going to be saved by Jedi, but it was also going to be saved by scientists. It was going to be saved by politicians compromising. Like, there were multiple people that had to work together to solve a problem, which is a beautiful message, frankly.
Yeah. I'm all about it. I love getting background character stuff. You guys have heard me talk about that on the show before, of like, I think it brings legitimacy to like the state of the galaxy to get, input from politicians and normal people. And I really appreciated that. I think it helps establish the scene and the setting a great deal. Like you said, we're all the Republic, that was brought up by everybody. So it's clear that even though we're in the Outer Rim, that they get it and they're paying attention to the state of the Republic. And that's not really like that in a lot of other Star Wars books, a lot of other Legends stuff, right? I'm talking about the Bane trilogy, is like citizens were all just kind of on the standby of the Force users around them. So I'd like to see it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up about Captain Bright and the Aurora 9 crew, because when I read that sequence, it's a straight pull from Armageddon. It's 100%
Oh my God,
Bruce
you're right.
Willis saving Ben Affleck's life and telling him to take care of his little girl now. And I was just like, oh.
Wow. Wow. Captain Bright. Also, our Nautilin.
Nautilin,
haven't
for
seen
real.
one of those in a hot minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. God, it was Armageddon, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Armageddon.
That's the only thing I thought of whenever that was happening. I was like, he's gonna Armageddon it, isn't he? He's like, yep, he did.
Man, I tell you what, Light of the Jedi is Armageddon, because I sure didn't want to miss a thing. That's for sure.
I wonder if any of our
for you.
listeners has bingo on their movie reference card yet with Finding Nemo, Armageddon, Gravity. We'll see what else we can come up with. But I'm glad that you brought up We Are All the Republic. And I want to read y'all a relatively long quote, please excuse me, from page 355, and then I have a prompt for you at the end. But I thought this was one of the most beautiful passages in the entire book. And it says this: the Republic was not one world. It was many, each unique in ways large and small. Solving one problem inevitably caused others. There were intractable cultural, historical, economic, and military conflicts among inhabitants of worlds. There were warlords and agitators and malcontents and other less easy to handle enemies, plagues and strange magical factions on hidden worlds who believed they would conquer the galaxy, and yes, even hyperspace anomalies. But the key was this, and Chancellor So believed it to her very soul, and it made it the cornerstone of her entire government. You could not solve those problems individually. It was ridiculous to even try. What you could do, however, was make the various peoples of this high era of the Galactic Republic see one another as people, as brothers and sisters and cousins and friends, or if nothing else, just as colleagues in the shared goal of building a galaxy that welcomed all, heard all, and did its best to avoid hurting anyone. Truly tried its best. If you could make that happen, then problems didn't have to be solved. Many would solve themselves because people believed in the Republic more than they believed in their own goals and would be open to that magical word, compromise. That wonderful day had not yet come, not fully, and perhaps it never would. But she would work toward it with every hour and every day she retained in her office. All she wanted, truly, was for 5 words to live on past her term, even past her life. We are all the Republic. Now, that literally gives me goosebumps.
It's so
reading
good.
that out loud.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
beautiful.
incredible. And I'm so glad that you brought this up. And of course, we had to talk about this extensively. But what does the saying, "We are all the Republic," really mean? What's at the heart of it? What is the significance in this book, in this time period, in Star Wars as a whole, and maybe in our own lives? Is this even a meta message for us in our own lives?
We're all Star Wars fans. I don't know. I loved it. Listen, I loved all of the plot development of the Chancellor. Like, I think
Chancellor So. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, she is one of the best characters in this book. I absolutely loved her. And like when it started with this whole "We are all the Republic" stuff, I thought it was bullcrap. I did. I thought it was BS. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is going to be some bullcrap politician stuff that we're used to in Star Wars, but it's not at all. Like, she is for real, like absolutely for real. And I really appreciated that it kept repeating it in such a goofy way. Good Lord, how many times was in this book? Somebody should count. Like, it's probably in there 50 times. Like, it's seriously, they used it a lot. And I love it. I think it really talks about the state of the galaxy. I keep coming back to that. The state of the galaxy is really important to establish that early on, because when you don't do that, it's really hard to figure out what the context is. And I feel like that's what the sequel trilogy missed a little bit, right? Who the hell is the First Order? What exactly is going on, right? Like, it's, if you can't put the pieces together, who are the good guys and the bad guys? What is the state of the galaxy? Like, it's hard to put the story in context. So I really love Chancellor So. I love that, like, she was for real, and big fan of her character.
Yeah. I mean, I think that at the core of every fantasy epic is people from all walks of life who disagree coming together to face off against a great evil, right? I mean, Lord of the Rings, you think about like elves and dwarves and hobbit, and like the Council of Elrond, like it's all of them coming together despite the fact that they disagree and they yell at each other because there's a threat. And they're like, you're still a human. You're my brother. You're my sister. You're like, like he says in the thing, you're my cousin. You're whatever. And I think that this is a beautiful way just to set the rules of this universe. You know, that this is not a universe where everyone is worried that the Jedi are against me and the politicians are against me and the smugglers are against me. The baseline of this universe is we are all together against the forces of evil, which I think is great. I mean, and to your point, Charles, does this at all apply to our modern lives? Yeah, you know, a bit, I would say. I mean, obviously, it's inescapable to write anything in a vacuum for any writer. Whatever art you put out as an author or a director or whatever it may be is going to be representative of the time in which you wrote it. So Charles Soule was not in a vacuum the last few years. He is an American writer. So being surrounded by a country and a world that is kind of more pressed on division, even a fandom that is more pressed on division, why wouldn't you want to write about this amazing universe where everyone works together no matter what? And there is disagreement in this book. There are people saying, this is how we should do it. This is how we should do it. I don't trust it. I need these droids. I don't trust the Santekas, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, they're like, oh, but we're still going to work together. Like, it's assumed because we are all the Republic. And I think making the battle cry of the first book of the biggest fantasy franchise in the world, a cry of unity amongst all races, amongst all people, is freaking beautiful at its base and effective and inspiring at the most. So I liked it.
I 100% agree. It's almost, I mean, it's written in the quote, right? It's, you can't solve these problems individually. You need help from other people to come together to solve an issue without just being like we talked about last week, is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. I had Jake in the chat brings it up like Jake and Spice are going back and forth about like the Lord of the Rings thing. It reminds us of, Gondor lights the beacons. Rohan comes. We haven't talked like light the starlight beacons, which I really enjoy the punnage of that. Like literally you're lighting a beacon. The biggest like end of this book is lighting a beacon to say, we are here to help. What do you need? That's like the climax is now having an aid station. That's different, man. That is a new era.
Where was Gondor? Where was Gondor when the beacon fell?
Never thought I would die fighting next to a Twi'lek. What about next to a friend?
Oh my god! Yes.
Man.
All right.
Those movies are perfect. Anyway.
Absolutely. Now there was a really interesting shift in one of the terms, towards the end of this book, and it was on page 360, and it parallels this "We Are All the Republic," and it came from our boy Marchion Ro. And after restructuring the Nile, he actually uses as kind of a war cry or a cry to rally all of the Nile that are left. He says, "We are all the Nile."
I saw, that was cool. Parallel.
Yeah. What's the intention in that? And do we see that carry forward?
It's so cool. I just want to say something real quick. I want to hear what you guys think. It's so cool to see Marchion Ro take this glorious, pure message. We are all the Republic, right? Because there's no irony behind it. It is very much pure and beautiful. And to use it to manipulate the masses of people he has control over.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We are the Nile. But he is using it to manipulate them into sacrificing their lives for his sick it's a beautiful parallel that is freaking chilling, man.
Yeah. Magda Life asked a good question in the comments about like, what do we think about, is there maybe a point to that, right? Like the Night Hill are like all about this freedom of expression in a weird, sick and twisted way, right? Like, is there something to that? Maybe not everybody wants to be the Republic, right? Like,
oh, sure.
Yeah, it's
I definitely think so. Yeah,
interesting idea like that it has to be more than just like resources being stretched too thin. Like, how has Tatooine been outside of the Republic this entire time, right? Like, it's got to be more than just there's not the resources to make it happen, right? Maybe there's something to that. It's a Hutt controlled world. They like the lawlessness. This is how they make their money, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting idea.
I mean, and I think that's where the Nihil will evolve to, frankly. I mean, that's been like gang warfare through the history of time, right? Is the government doesn't care about you, but we do. And yeah, you have to do some dark stuff for us, but like, we'll give you food. We'll give you protection. Like that's as old as time.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so intentional, and it really was only said that one time. And I can't help but wonder if that's going to be used as a rallying cry moving forward for the Nile.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see. But y'all mentioned the Starlight Beacon. We've got to talk about the Starlight Beacon and really all of Chancellor So's great works. That's what they were called. And on page 130, I thought we got probably the best description of what the beacon really is and the purpose that it serves. And it says, the Starlight Beacon, finally finished after a lengthy, challenging construction process, the huge way station was built to serve many purposes. A Republic embassy that could also serve as a fortress if necessary, a projection of security presence to discourage raider and marauder activity, a Jedi outpost containing the largest single contingent outside the Coruscant Temple itself, where they would research and teach and listen for the guidance of the Force. Cultural spaces showcasing the beauty of the many worlds making up the sector, a communications relay that would boost transmission times in the region by a factor of 10, the most state-of-the-art medical facilities in the Outer Rim, and it can open a can of beans in less than 3 seconds. That last part may or may not have actually been in the book, but this thing is perfect. It does everything. It serves every purpose. Like, tell me what your thoughts are on the Starlight Beacon and what you think we're going to see it maybe do moving forward.
Oh, dude, the Starlight Beacon is absolutely so totally. There is no way the Starlight Beacon is gonna survive this, right, dude?
It is the Will Lark of space stations.
It is, right? Okay, that's the thing. That's the thing we have to talk about, which occurred to me the entire time, and I wanted to discuss it with you guys. It's like, when and how is the Starlight Beacon gonna be destroyed? Because it doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist in modern canon as far as we know. I feel like they would talk about it if it did. So how's it going to happen?
Yeah, it's 100% a target.
So there are 3 phases to the High Republic, right? We get that, like the Light of the Jedi, the stuff like they in the big press conference they highlighted 3 phases.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The end of phase 2. That's the climax of it's the end of Empire, man. It's the end of the second act. The beacon gets destroyed, and the third act is the Jedi brushing themselves off.
How can they tie it all back in? I wonder if another kind of secondary question, which I'm sure we can come back to later if we want, is how is all this going to tie into modern Jedi? Like, is it going to, right? I mean, are we going to see a transition? We talked about that early on, I think. Are we going to see some of the ideology start to change in this series? In this, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know if they're going to change that much in this, just because I think they want to keep as much open as they can.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely by the end of phase 3 going to get a Yoda centered project that gets him starting to think about things that
so.
I think we'll get there. But to your point about the beacon real quick, Charles, I love the beacon as a concept. Real quick, I just want to say I think it's kind of like the UN as a space station. I think that's really cool. I love how they said, it's going to have a rotating art. So we're going to show the culture as well as the medical, as well as the war.
It feels a little forced, in my opinion, right? Like it feels like the Republic, like woefully naive, exerting their will on the Outer Rim a little bit to me. So that's part of why I wonder if it's going to be connected to like the prequel era Jedi at all. Are we going to see a little bit of this of we need to worry about our own kind of mentality, right? We need to worry about what exists in the Republic, and like maybe we need to bring it back home a little bit. Stop being so focused on what's out there, and I don't know, like a sense of that nationalism, I guess a little bit might be a good word for it. Of like, I wonder if we'll see that sort of be sort of a drawback of the beacon, because like the thing is absolutely doomed. Like it has to be, because it's out there all by itself, and I think it's absolutely doomed. It is a matter of time.
One, it's interesting too because in our future roundtable, Claudia Gray's Into the Dark, it's another story of people trying to get to the beacon, and so all the stories in this first pseudo wave of these first 3 books take place getting to the beacon. So we still haven't quite seen it at full capacity. The comic is going to take place much more on the beacon. So I think we're going to see kind of the day-to-day of it. Like Avar Kriss is the Marshal of Starlight Beacon, which is just a freaking awesome title. Let's be clear. That's amazing. I love cowboy beaconness. But I think it's going to be interesting once we start seeing Jedi in this era that have been on the beacon for a while, when it's not just new, when it's the first year, maybe the second year. Like, what is beacon life actually like? And I think you make a great point, Corey. Are people more concerned with the image of Starlight Beacon than its function to help? And I wonder if that's going to shift. But I want the Lego set. I want it to be a Lego. That'd be great. Yeah. That'd be cool.
How would you even... You have to like suspend it from the ceiling or something, because it's a weird shape. It won't stand up by itself.
Yeah, and then the wire snaps and explodes all over the ground, because that's exactly what's going to happen.
No, man.
It's a target. It's such a target out there.
It is.
It's a feature. The feature is that at some point it will break.
I mean, it's already designed for the rich. Like it's all about this. Like, it's a beacon of hope and all this crap. But listen, these poor people live on Tatooine. Are not going to go tour the Starlight Beacon. Luke Skywalker had never even left the planet until the films, right? So like,
what kind of income are these people saying to be able to get up there? I mean,
exactly,
I'm sure it costs a fortune.
It's a phony, right? It's a thing for the rich bureaucrats of Alderaan to go fly out to the Outer Rim and be like, oh yes, this is what these poor people do around here. Oh yes, let's look at the peasants of the Outer Rim, right? That's what it screams to me. It screams.
Oh man,
okay.
Peasants of the Outer Rim. I can't wait for that book.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a great one.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's really interesting. Y'all don't maybe think that the Starlight Beacon is that great of a work, even though it's like the headliner of Lena Says Great Works.
I think it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be.
But it's cool because I think, look at what Lena So is doing as a chancellor. She's very much exerting her will and what she thinks the galaxy should look like on everyone. And it's exactly what Palpatine does later on. I mean, they both exerted their powers, it seems like, to mold the universe into what they wanted it to be. It's just one of them has very pure intentions and the other doesn't. But it's interesting that despite those intentions, you can still have something bad come out of it.
You know
like
what
it
I'm
sounds like y'all are thinking. Just
one last thing on the optimistic note, because we definitely went a certain way there, which is legit. I think that's what's going to happen. I do think that there was something about So's great works that reminded me a lot about FDR and the Depression, right?
Yeah, Magdalene brought that up actually earlier. She said she wanted space FDR is what her comment started with.
Which is totally it. And I think that this is definitely from a place of like, we're going to build all these great things to help people. And I think there is an element of legacy, right? I mean, God, we talk about legacy with every Star Wars writer. We talk about legacy with every story. Lena So's legacy should be that of great works. Clearly, by the time the prequels happen, either A, they're gone, or B, I mean, in the real world, like, they didn't know Lena So existed, so they didn't talk about her. Duh. But I think there could be interesting ways to talk about why aren't these great works, like the great like the pyramids and the wonders of the world. Like, what happens to these great works? Why aren't they everywhere? That'll be a really fun story.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. We're going to have more of Lena So's great works to talk about, her relationship with the Jedi and the Republic in general. We're going to talk about that amazing epilogue, and we're going to have a whole bunch of Easter eggs and connective tissue to get into, but we're going to have to save all of that for next week for part 3 of 3 of the Light of the Jedi Roundtable.
God, I swear we just started this episode.
It feels like it. I know. There's no way we could have squeezed this into 2 episodes. No way.
No. And I think what this is to really put an end on part 2 here. These questions you're putting towards us, Charles, are really interesting because they are about going forward. Like, Marchion's plan is the future. The great works are the future. And I think what Light of the Jedi does so well is that it is a complete story. It is a beginning, middle, and end of an awesome story. And I think it doesn't shortchange you if you want a good, complete Star Wars book. However, as opposed to some of our other roundtables, which were all about like, oh, this is what happened, what do we think? This is what happened, what do we think? There's so much momentum in this book, even after it's over, that I think it really is unique in that way of propelling an entire initiative. And I'm more impressed with every conversation that we have about what it was able to do, you know?
Absolutely.
I'm very excited.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it goes without question that this book is really kicking off the era, like, with so much to talk about. It makes it a ton of fun. I'm really excited.
No question. Well, to everyone in the chat that is, again, these have been some of our most active chats. Thank you all for tuning in live. Again, next week we will be on Twitch again. It will be our last Twitch show on the Living Force, at least. And then for our 100th episode, Spectacular, we will be going. Spectacular is, wow, I'm putting stakes on it. Sorry. For our 100th episode, that will be fine. We will be going to YouTube. So keep your eyes on that for the Switch if you're listening live. To everyone watching later, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you're loving this talk about Light of the Jedi, because that, my friends, will do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you're already supporting us on Patreon, thank you so much. Because of the later start time and the longer episode, there'll be no aftermath tonight. That will be coming back very, very soon so we can hang out and just chat. A special thank you goes out to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for your amazing support of all things Utini. You can find us on Twitter at Eric Eilerson, at Doc Star Wars MD, at C. Henkel, and at Boss Wes. A special thank you goes out to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for podcasting with me. Thanks to all of you for hanging out in the chat. And as always, we are all the Republic. May the Force be with you!